Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews Saturday Conversation Show, an interview series where I'll talk to entertainment personalities, content creators, and filmmakers about their work and love of film. Today's guest is Kiah Roache-Turner, Australian filmmaker whose DIY ingenuity on his 2014 directorial debut, Wyrmwood, has led to a successful career as a director of adrenaline-pumping, gut-ripping, fist-pumping genre cinema that now includes Beast of War, a based on true events war horror movie that pits a marooned group of young soldiers against a hungry great white shark. And for all your Aussies out there listening, October 9 is when you're going to check out Beast of War in Australian cinemas. And for everyone listening out in the US, limited showings October 10. I really recommend everyone, if they can, go to the cinema and watch this film because this a lot of work has been put into Beast of War. And I really recommend people check it out in the cinema along with your other gorehounds out there because this is a type of shark movie that I think a lot of us have been waiting for. There's been a lot of them over the years. I think it's one of the most overrepresented kind of subgenre of film, but it's great to see one like Beast of War that really puts the scary back in shark films. And I got to say thank you and hello to Kiah Roache-Turner for that privilege of being here. How are you?
Thanks for that amazing intro, Matthew. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Um, it's really interesting. I was doing some research just on based on yourself and your kind of like your journey into film. I read that when you were a kid, zombies, spiders, sharks are the three things that really scared the crap out of you. And here we are.
Mm.
You've done films on zombies. You did your giant spider movie with Sting, and now we got Beast of War with the shark. So you hit the trifecta here. Does doing any of these films based on these kind of like fears you had as a kid quell those fears, or does it only bring back the horrors of those kind of phobias you have on some of these things?
Yeah, I'm basically just slowly working my way through the monsters that scared me as a kid. So I don't know what my next movie is going to be. Maybe maths teacher. I don't know. But yeah, it's funny. You do sort of go into this hoping that there's going to be some kind of therapy, like very much with I have intense arachnophobia, so I was very much hoping that would be the case with Sting. Whereas, like, if I just spend years, looking at spiders and thinking about spiders and writing about spiders and creating spiders, like maybe it will help, and it doesn't help, like not at all. And like even I just finished this great white shark movie, and I watched Jaws when I was a kid, and that really impacted me. I can't go out into the water now, in the ocean without hearing the John Williams soundtrack in my head. It's like da
Yeah.
dum da dum da dum da dum, and I'm racing for the beach. I just like I just have to do little dog paddling in my waist, up to my waist now, like just because of Spielberg. And I did a whole film based around a great white shark and people being munted and legs being eaten and people's arms being bitten off, and it hasn't helped at all. I'm just as scared as I always was. But I think there is a cathartic thing, where if you are anxious and you're scared of monsters under the bed as a kid, the best thing to do is get a torch and go under the bed,
Mm.
face your fears. And I think as a horror filmmaker, that's kind of what you do. You just do public therapy where you face your fears for an intense period of time. You go into what scares you, why it scares you, what emotional connections you have to those specific fears, and then you throw it into the audience's psyche, and it's somebody else's problem. Yeah, so I think there's a catharsis involved.
Um, do you, for some people, maybe Beast of War might be like one of their first maybe cinema experiences. You never know. People growing up may want to watch a horror film and then they, get taken to see Beast of War. Do you remember your first horror film that you watched when you were a kid, especially like at the cinema? Do you remember what the first early experiences are with that genre?
Um, for some reason, the movie that really impacted me a lot was like the original Dracula, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the Draculas that were made, I guess, in the 70s, late 70s. And there's a section where they go into Mina's grave and they dig it up, and she's not in the coffin, and then they
Mm.
kick through the coffin into a sewer underneath the coffin, and they realize that her corpse has crawled out of the coffin into a sewer underneath, and they find her in the sewer, like this dead walking vampiric corpse woman. And I crept out of bed when I was a kid and was like peeking over the couch while my parents were watching it, and
Mm,
like so that just ingrained into my head, and that was the first thing that gave me repetitive nightmares. And I watched The Exorcist when I was way too young. I think I was like maybe 13 years old, and like
mm.
because I was brought up a Catholic, like I was really genuinely scared of the devil. My mum was very Catholic, and we were brought up going to church and believing in God and the devil and all that stuff. And she used to say, you know, never say his name, because when you say his name, he appears. And so as a kid, I'm like, oh, the devil exists. It's like an actual thing in form. And so when I saw The Exorcist, the idea that a demon could get into your mind, it's not under your bed or reaching for you in the dark. It's already in your brain. And for some reason, that really scared the crap out of me. So yeah, there were a few films that really traumatized me as a kid, and that's probably why I'm sitting here today, you know, talking to
I
you.
also read that when you were a kid, you and your brother Tristan, who's also a producing partner of yours for several of your movies,
Mm.
you made short films. You had a tiny, like a H8 camera, made short films. What kind of films were you and your brother making when you were kids?
Yeah, my mum bought me a high-8 camera, and I think one of the first films I made was like, oh, let's just see, you know, what we can do here. And I just made a film that didn't really have a narrative. It was just me killing and chopping up my brother and putting his corpse in a plastic bag and taking him out into the night to do whatever with the
Right.
corpse. And we used tomato sauce, and I used like wet pieces of toilet paper to create like knife gashes, and I was covered in blood and he was covered in blood. And you know, it was just a bit of fun, you know. And we showed our mum this little short film that we made, and she burst into tears and she started screaming, "What have you done to my baby?" And like we're just like, he's not dead, he's watching it with you. Like, what are you doing? She got so disturbed. But part of it was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, we can get a real visceral reaction, you know, making horror films. And pretty much every film we made from there on in had some kind of horror or death or violence or whatever, you know. And you know, I've always liked making films where you get visceral reactions from the audience. And this is another one of those films. Like, we had the world premiere at the Melbourne International Film Festival a couple of weeks ago, and to watch this film that we made on a giant, like, you know, 25-foot screen in a
Mm.
huge room with like 1,000 people, and you know, like the surround sound speakers, like just booming, you know, the amazing sound design that the guys at Folklore did. It's so good to make another film where just the audience participation is huge. Like, there's scenes in this, like this is a film that's like really made to be watched at a festival with a crowd, because you know, people were screaming and like laughing and making noises like they were going to be sick, and then groaning and moaning and laughing again. And I'm just like, oh, this is a roller coaster movie. We did quite well on this one. Like, they were very in. The whole audience went on a ride, and it really reminded me, you know, why I make these kind of films. You know, I do make roller coaster movies, and I want a gut punch reaction from a crowd of people. You know, it was nice to make another one of those films and experience that with a crowd. You know.
And that's why I encourage everyone out there listening to watch this in the cinema, because there's a number of scenes in this movie that really just made me stand up and take notice. Because
Mm.
I'm, like I said, shark films come along quite a bit, but I've really had a reaction to a shark film like Beast of War than I have in a while. Some of the notes that I wrote down just to share, incredibly intense. Death from above and below. I don't want to give
Mm.
away too much as to why. Make sharks scary again is another one that I wrote in there
No.
as well. Great scares, gory violence. I think the first time we see the shark as well, and it's a puppet, right? You guys made like an actual creature, part practical kind of shark, right? You have this huge tank of like from what I read, the biggest kind of tank made for an Australian film, right? You filled it up with water, but you're using like a practical kind of shark. And the first time I see the shark in this movie,
Mm.
just really scared the shit out of me, because I think a lot of times people are trying to make their sharks maybe more, I don't know, um, or just a part of nature, whatever. Where in this shark in this movie, it feels like a real great monster shark in the effect that this is a killing machine. It's coming out to get you, and when you see it, and when you see the jaws come open, and you see the gums in the those bloody fangs, those razor teeth. To me, I was just like, man, this is just like almost kind of like a demonic kind of entity in the form of a shark, as opposed to like someone, I don't know, trying to say, oh, we're just in the shark's habitat and we're trying to make something a little more realistic. I don't want that. I want something monstrous, and you gave me something monstrous here, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I wanted it to look like it was like a bulldog that had had many, many, many fights in like, pub car parks, just like scars everywhere. Like one of its eyes is, like almost ripped out of its head.
Mm.
It's so, covered in like scar tissue. Like it almost looks like a zombie shark. I wanted it I wanted this hideous face mask to be, pumping out of the water at people. And, sharks are already pretty scary, but I wanted this one to really look like, yeah, quite monstrous. Yeah, it was important for me that it was, some of it was a giant puppet that was, operated by a stuntman under the water. The fin was basically another separate part that was basically a submarine with a fin on top of it, because
Mm.
I find when they have the fin just sitting on top of a scuba diver, you don't have that big rolling wave of water displacement that says under that fin is a thing that weighs a ton. You
The size
needed the
to it, yeah.
weight of it, yeah, so that as it cuts through the water, it feels like, there's a bus coming at you. And then we had the third part was an attack head that weighed, I think, about half a ton, and that was like the whole front end of the shark, and it had like animatronic jaws that clamped down, and it shoots up on a giant underwater sort of rail, and so it slides forward and bursts up out of the water at the actors. And again, that thing has a lot of weight to it, so when it bursts up out of the water, it feels like, yeah, it looks like a giant monster that goes down further than just the head. And then we, augmented these explosions with like huge canisters of CO2 that would explode waves
Mm.
under the shark as it attacked. Because looking at footage of real sharks, when they're biting on stuff, the head's doing a lot of work, and a lot of filmmakers make the mistake of concentrating on the head. But I really wanted to show that the tail underneath is doing a lot of work too. It's like it's frothing the water. So when a shark attacks, you get these massive explosions of waves and explosions of water that add to the violence and the dynamism in frame. And yeah, we did a lot of SFX work and puppetry work, and a lot of planning went into making sure that those attacks were just as violently visceral as possible.
I want to move
And
on to
also,
the.
I've been watching trailers and stuff and I'm not going to name the movies, but like shark films come out and you're just like, that's digital. Like it doesn't look
Yeah,
real. Like the water
yeah.
displacement looks wrong. Like it can't, like a shark specifically can't be digital. I'm all for digital creatures. Like I don't have a problem with that, but you've got to get it right. If it doesn't feel real, it's not going to scare anybody. So yeah, it kind of needed to be a puppet. Yeah.
Hi guys, Matt here from Matt's Movie Reviews, letting you know that the Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel has launched channel membership. This provides exclusive videos and other cool stuff as well for all channel members. It's under one tier, one price, and with that one price you get exclusive reviews. For example, I'll be going through the American Film Institute's top 100 movies, so every week I'll do a new review based on that movie list. You can get exclusive reviews based on your requests. Request a movie review and I will review it for you. You'll also get exclusive content for behind the scenes stuff as well. You also get exclusive interviews that I haven't posted yet as part of my podcast, like older interviews with Academy Award winners and other great filmmakers and actors as well, and a bunch of other cool stuff as well. I hope you can all join up, be part of this great experience I have on offer for you. Support indie content creators, support a movie critic like myself who is trying to make it through the content creator space. Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel memberships. Please join and get some great exclusive content. And effective, very effective, as I've just talked about then. I want to play this game I like to play called Choose Between Two. So I'm going to just pop two choices in front of you. You're going to choose one of them and just elaborate on your answer if you like. Are you ready to play?
I am ready. I was born ready.
All right. Let's find out with the first one. Battle of the sci-fi horror movies, Alien or The Thing?
Oh, that's a horrible question.
Ah,
Maybe I'm
born
not
ready.
ready.
Let's go.
Oh God. Oh, this is hard. This is hard. Oh God. the thing is more entertaining, but I'm going to have to go with Alien simply because it's canon. It's like so cinematically inspirational. Like the way it was filmed, the art of how it was filmed, the H.R. Geiger creature, like Ridley Scott just firing on all cylinders photographically. The cast is like the greatest. They're all brilliant, brilliant stage actors. This is the acting is as good as anything in The Godfather. You know what I mean? So, and just Ian Holm as the cyborg. Spoiler alert. It's amazing. Like it's an absolute masterpiece. Whereas The Thing is just one of the great horror monster films of all time. It's top
Yeah.
three or maybe top five for me of all time. But in terms of cinematic quality, Alien is just an unmitigated masterpiece. So I'll have to go with Alien.
Next one, Battle of the Directors, Spielberg or Scorsese?
Oh, these are hard questions, Matthew. You're
Mhm.
not you're not making it easy for me. Oh God. This I think just comes down to personal stuff. Like, I mean, again, Spielberg more entertaining. The great Spielberg. I mean, you kind of have to choose him, but I can't because my heart sits with Scorsese in terms of directing and like what I've gotten from him in cinema. I think Spielberg has more films in my top 10, but like nobody comes close to just the sheer cinematic perfection and mastery of Martin Scorsese. I mean, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. Um, these are just the best directed films of all time. And even in his 70s, he's making these brilliant, brilliant masterwork satires like Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, it's Scorsese, and all his work in documentary. I mean, yeah, he's. I got to go with Scorsese, unfortunately, just stylistically.
Um, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one, and this is more in reference to you as a film watcher, a film fan. CGI or practical effects? Which one do you rather see on the screen?
Practical, and I just think, I mean, especially in a horror context, horror is a textural medium, and the whole point of horror is, to believe that the thing in front of the camera is real, and you just get better results. But more and more, you're having to go for digital because budgets are shrinking and shoot times are shrinking, and at a certain point, you have to just make a decision to go digital, like a lot of the time. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I could, I would always go practical, always.
What do you rather watch your movies at home on? With physical media or with streaming?
Oh, physical media because it just looks better. I mean, no matter what your bandwidth is, streaming, you're always streaming a compressed file, and even a really good compressed file is still compressed. I'm always surprised when I put on a Blu-ray and you're just like, oh my God, like, yeah, it looks like you're watching, a 2 foot photograph, versus, something where you can always see a bit of pixelation. So yeah, always physical media if possible.
Last one. You go to the cinema, what are you snacking on? Popcorn or candy?
Um, Unfortunately, both, and you would see the results of that if you could see me, like not just from the head down. I'll usually get a little small popcorn, um, usually a medium if I'm honest, because my kids are always stealing my popcorn, and I usually
Yeah.
go the Maltesers,
Oh yeah. Yep.
so yeah, a combination of Maltesers and popcorn, and one serving of Heart Attack.
I love Maltese. I like those what are those Mars bar things with like a chocolate base, like a little contain like ball. It's got Mars bar in there, or you can get a Snickers bar. The
Yeah, it's like a
pods,
little
the
Mars
pods.
eaty bitey Mars
Yeah.
bites or whatever. No, I'm old school. I like a good solid Mars bar, and I've got a very
Mhm.
specific technique with how I eat my Mars bar. So those Mars bites don't do it for me. But yeah, I'm a Maltesers guy.
Um, I read as well that when you were younger, comic books were like a huge influence on you.
Mm.
To the point where, is it right that the aspiration that you had was to be a comic book artist as opposed to a filmmaker when you were
Yeah,
younger?
I did want to be a comic book artist, and I started going down that road, but I wasn't as good as I thought I was quick enough.
Mm.
And I'm very lazy when it comes to that stuff. If I can't be really good fast, then I just don't want to do it. And I just found when I picked up a camera, like um, my results as a filmmaker were just better and quicker than my results as a graphic artist. Um, but yeah, I drew and drew and drew for years and years and years. And, I was doing storyboards even when I was like, 12, 13, 14, so I really love the art of comic books. And I used to collect, X-Men and Punisher and, Spawn and all that kind of stuff. I had a running, those little brown paper bags that you pick up at Comic Kingdom. I'd go in and they have
Absolutely.
all my stuff, once a week or once a month. And that was my favorite day when I'd go in and I'd get my new comics and I'd read, new Punisher Warzone and all that, and X-Men, X Factor, get all my favorite artists, Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and, all these guys. So it's very, very much influenced. And even later on, as I grew up and I got into graphic novels like Watchmen and the work of Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman, Sandman, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I still think I write very much in the vein of a graphic novel artist, less than a classic filmmaker. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think graphic novels are one of the great unsung art forms of the 21st century. I think Watchmen's up there with any of the great literature in my mind. So yeah, it's a great format and it's very cinematic and it makes sense to sort of go from one to the other.
I know that you storyboard like pretty much all your films, right? Because of your
Mm,
illustration background.
mm.
Is it true as well that like when it comes to things like costuming and such, like for Wyrmwood, for instance, where you have kind of like the helmet and all the kind of armor and all that, was that kind of like inspired by like the kind of the heroes or the anti-heroes you've seen in comic books as well? So that kind of stuff kind of inspires your designs in regards to costume, character, even picture placement of how you want to put together your frames and such like that as on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things I really like about comic books and comic art is like it's all about iconography. So if you've got like an iconic silhouette and costume like Batman, which is probably one of the great ones. I mean, it's just like his look and his costume and just the context of his narrative is like it's like a gothic masterpiece in my mind. Even though it's a silly idea, it's like a giant dude dressed like a mouse. Like, how is this great? But the way
Mm.
that people, artists like Frank Miller and stuff, and Christopher Nolan cinematically, and Matt Reeves and stuff have framed him. It's a noir masterpiece. It's just brilliant, like when done properly. And I like to do that in my films too. It's like all about the iconography of the silhouette. I like to set up, iconic scenes, iconic characters, iconic costumes, and the look of the thing is very much the thing for me. I really like, directors who have a very strong iconic vision like that. Whether it's Nolan with Dark Knight, like the way he treated the Joker was just so original and just rich. Or Guillermo del Toro, these worlds that he sets up, like Pan's Labyrinth, or you look at Hellboy, and it's just like there's nobody that could have come close to bringing Mike Mignola to the screen. You needed an artist who was just as visionary to do that. Like when Rodriguez brought Frank Miller's Sin City to the screen, and like you needed somebody who was as great as him visually to be able to take what he'd done on the page in Sin City and just put it up on the screen. And Robert Rodriguez was always kind of saying, "Oh, all I did was just do what Frank did," and it's like, nah, man, it's like another director's going to stuff that up. You have to be a true artist who understands detail and has the production know-how to be able to create that on screen. So I was very much influenced by all of that stuff with Beast of War. I wanted it to feel, kind of like, I wanted to feel like 300 in a way, like a kind of Frank Miller approach to a real situation in history. But I wanted to treat it, with a very hyper stylized graphic novel kind of aesthetic.
It's almost kind of like a surreal aspect to Beast of War as well, in that they're in this fog bank and surrounding them is like the fog, and then you have the different colors. Sometimes you mess around with reds, greens, and stuff like that as well. And I really dug that about the film, in that it was like just this group of guys and this shark. And even though there's like a world beyond that, we know that there's nothing they could do, because right now they're stuck in like in this almost kind of like an arena,
Mm.
and the cage is the fog itself. I really dug that in the movie.
Well, yeah, the theory was, if we had to make the film indoors in an indoor water tank, I was terrified that A, it was going to look cheap, and B, it was going to get claustrophobic and boring. So I figured the only way to do it would be to lean into the studio aesthetic and basically do what Francis Coppola did with Dracula, where he made a studio film very much inspired by Murnau's Nosferatu or Murnau's Sunrise, those old silent films. So he just made his version of that in a studio, but in color, very saturated colors. And so, I basically, my pitch to the DOP and the production designer was like, let's really lean into the German expressionism of it all and try and make Nosferatu with a fin, very much inspired by the color palette set up in Francis Coppola's, Dracula. And I think that's when my DOP, Mark Wareham, kind of committed. Like he was unsure. He kind of went in kind of going, look, I'm interested in your films. I like, what you do, but shark film, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do a shark film. And then I
Mm.
started talking about German expressionism, and he's like, I'm in. When do we shoot? He's like, I love that. That's fun. And so, yeah, it doesn't feel real, but in my mind, they're kind of injected into a nightmare scape. And I just lent into the idea of hell on water.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel like we needed to be restricted by making it have a realistic palette. I thought, let's go in the opposite direction and have fun with it and make it feel like a dream tone poem. Um, and yeah, after me and Reg Squarco, my co-editor, had put together a director's cut, it wasn't quite there. And we had another editor, Steve Evans, who's a very talented man. He cut Chopper and Baby Teeth, and he's a real artist. He came in and he really helped me to find that tone poem feeling. Where we talked a lot about the whole film feeling like one long poetic sentence, where each word, each scene leads into the other in the same way that a poem has a flow. We want this film to like flow in a natural kind of dreamlike progression from A to B. And yeah, he really helped with finding that dream feeling, which I feel, if there's an originality to the feeling of the film, it's probably somewhere in that work.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere. I want to move on to another game I like to play. It's called Rapid Fire Questions. I'm just going to throw questions over your way. Try to
Mm.
answer as fast as you can. If you want to elaborate afterwards, you can go right ahead and do so. Are you ready
Mm.
for the first one?
Yeah.
Scariest moment or scene that you've watched in a horror movie?
Yeah, I mean, probably The Exorcist. There's that point where she's screaming and screeching and howling in tongues, and they run up, and the head revolves 180 degrees, and you can hear the bones snapping, and the devil is in this girl, and that gave me goosebumps, the likes of which I hadn't really experienced before.
Exorcist for me as well, but it's a different scene. It's the one where the psychiatrist or the psychologist, what have you, is in her room and asking for whoever the entity is to come out, and her face just changes.
Mm.
And you could tell there's a bad smell in the room. Everyone's kind of
Mm.
revolted by the smell, and then she attacks. And I just love that. It was just so, because there's no music, there's nothing to it. And Friedkin's such a great director in that he has his background was a documentarian, so he always brings a documentary feel to a lot of the stuff, and I think that's something that works really well in that movie. So
He bought a stage actress out of retirement to do the voice of the devil.
yeah,
And, she would be smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, and she
whiskey, yeah.
insisted on being tied to the chair when she was making those noises. And it's that moment where you hear the And you're
Yeah,
like, oh shit, what's in that girl? What's in this
exactly.
room? You know, it's
Exactly.
insane. And it just feels real. Yeah, it feels like a documentary about a poor little girl being taken over by the devil. It's horrific. Great film.
Great film. Um, what is the best Mad Max movie?
You don't ask the easy questions, do you? Um, that's like saying, what's the best Godfather? You know, you go, well, I guess it's Godfather 2, but the Godfather 2 doesn't happen without Godfather 1. You know, I love Mad Max 1. Mad Max 2 is a better film, but like Fury Road goes to another level where you're just like, I might even have to say Fury Road simply because of all the Mad Maxes. That's the one that I experienced on like a giant screen,
Mm.
and I just couldn't believe how good it was. And there's no real story. It's like a car. It's a car chase over here, and then it's a car chase back here. There's no plot. It's just visceral cinematic action, and it's just George Miller is just showing all these young directors how it's done. Every young director who was hoping to be, the next, James Cameron or whatever, just got blown out of the water by that film. And this is a film from a guy in his 70s. Like, I still don't
Mm.
know how he made such a good film. It might be just for sheer impact. It might be Fury Road, I think that's probably the wrong answer cinematically, but to go with my gut, I'm like, that film is just insane.
If you could adapt any comic book title or character to the screen, which one would you do?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, that's a real hard one. I do love the Punisher. Just trying to think of things that haven't really been done properly. Like I don't feel like the Punisher's really been done properly. I'd love to do a standalone Wolverine film, but like really go dark with it. But I mean, they kind of did that with Logan already. I'd love a stab at like the Batman universe, but Batman's been done to death. So like, what I wouldn't mind doing is rebooting Catwoman. I've got
Mm.
like I wrote something that I think could be phenomenal in the DC universe, and my plan basically is to take, how like Nolan just took Heat and made The Dark Knight.
Mm.
It's like I'm just going to take the feeling of Heat and I'm going to put that into Batman. I want to take Luc Besson's Nikita, La Femme Nikita. Remember that film? And I
Hmm.
just want to make Catwoman, and I want to take like the premise of Nikita and just go, that is Catwoman's origin story, and she's moving towards meeting Batman in the third act. And I'm just like that. I was very excited by that pitch, but I don't know anybody at DC, so yeah, I'd probably like to do that one.
I'd also love to see a Kiah Roache-Turner do a Spawn movie as well, because that's something that needs another looking at, I think.
I used to collect Spawn, but I never could really relate to him. It's too difficult. To me, it's Spider Man. Like I would kill to do like a Todd McFarlane dark Spider Man. I heard that like in the sort of early '90s, James Cameron was going to do Spider Man with like Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah, I
as
remember that. Yeah.
Peter Parker, and like that is one of the great lost things. And because Spider-Man versus the Goblin, some of the Todd McFarlane stuff felt a little bit like a David Fincher movie, and I'm like, I would love to do a Spider-Man movie in a David Fincher style. Like,
Mm.
oh god, that would be fun. Because Green Goblin is effectively like a horrifically faced serial killer. Like, he's got people killed and like all over the walls. You got corpses half dead wrapped up in like cocoons, and I'm like, that is a true serial killer character, and I would love to see Spider-Man fight that guy.
Last one, and this is incredibly important. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. It's fine. I don't mind a bit of pineapple on a supreme. Um, ham and pineapple is a bit excessive to me. I mean, it's just like, how much pineapple do we need? But yeah, I don't mind the
Mm.
odd spotted pineapple on supreme. Like, I'm okay with it. Yeah. I'm more irritated with the idea of anchovies. Fish on a
Mm.
pizza? Get out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah. You are wrong, by the way. All right, let's go into this
Yeah,
last
I know.
section here.
All of my Italian friends are just like, we will kill you. The pineapple. What is wrong with you Australians with your pineapple? Like sullying our
Um,
good historical foods.
I want to just end with, so like we got Beast of War now, which is I think your fifth or sixth feature film now. Um,
Fifth.
all the way back with Wyrmwood back in 2014. Um, and I think a lot of people might want to listen to this. We might have a lot of maybe aspiring filmmakers out there that are just like, I just want to make a film, want to make a film, want to
Mm,
make a film. And I know you
mm,
were really influenced by Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew, the book,
mm.
and his main thing was like you got to use the resources that are around you, you know?
Yeah,
And your thing was like, well, I got access to a four-wheel drive. Just put some spikes on that. Hey, Blue Mountains, we can use, the bush area over there. Let's
yeah.
let's do all this stuff. And you made your film. Took a long time. Took like years to do, but you made
Three
it,
and
and
a
that was
half years in
three and a half
production. Yeah,
years.
yeah,
And but you made it, and that
yep,
starts off where we are now, right? Um,
yep.
do you think that now more than ever people have access to technologies and cameras and stuff, even like, Soderbergh's making stuff with the iPhone and such like that. Do you think
Yeah.
that when people are starting out to make a film, it's less about, not to say that preparation isn't important, of course it is, but is it more about just action over anything else? Is it just about you just have to go out and do it and just experiment and see what you got, what you can do with the things around you? Is that like the number one most important thing? Do you think like a young filmmaker who just wants to put something out there just do it first, and then from that you can kind of realize, oh, I got skills in here, I might need help with this, I might need to do that. Is that kind of the first rule? Just get it done, do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
first.
The trick is to make a few short films. Like you have to do that, and then screen them in festivals and screen them in front of like friends, family, crowds, because like there's what you think you've made, and then as soon as you screen that in front of people, that goes away very quickly. You're like, oh my god, I've made a piece of shit. Like this is so uninteresting. It's so boring. What have I done wrong? So you have to make short films to see what your style is. Is it action? Is it romance? Like what is your style? Like is it comedy? Like you need to find out what you're good at. You have to screen it in front of audiences because it teaches you not to be a pretentious film hack. Like this is something that needs to be screened in front of people, and like it can be important. Like Denis Villeneuve's early films, or like these, like maybe you're making beautiful social experiments in art. Like a Renoir film or something, but it still needs to be good. Like you might just be making a pretentious piece of rubbish in that regard. And so maybe you need to do action so that you can entertain, in the way best. Like I lean on horror and action because I'm not the best writer in the world, but I do a hell of a good set piece. And I've always been good at that kind of entertaining, dynamic cinematic action. I always put laughs in because I do like comedy, but I find it helps. Like, if you've got horror, 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 laugh, horror, 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 laugh, like it's just a good way to have a dynamic piece of entertainment. After me and my brother had made a bunch of short films and we'd done some festival stuff, and we've got a little bit of an understanding of what we were good at. Um, we came up with the idea of Wyrmwood. We did a little proof of concept, 7 minutes short. And we're like, oh, this is good. This short may be the best thing we've ever done, and like the world works. So I knew that we could make this film. We flirted for a little while with getting financing. The government wasn't really interested. Screen Australia wasn't really interested in giving money to people who'd never made a film before, which is fair enough. And then we started talking to distributors and sales agents. And quite frankly, they were so mean and nasty and like just bossy vibes. Like me and my brother sort of got together and just went like, we both have jobs. Like we already have bosses. Like we're young. We haven't bought a house yet. We don't have kids. Like we can put money into our own films. And so rather than like get financing and have some cretin like boss us around and like tell us how our film is going to be, we decided pretty quickly that it's like, look, if you're going to make a film, it's effectively just like making 15 short films. It'll take a few years, but like we made one short film, we can make another 10. And, a film is effectively just 10 short films strung into one. You realize very quickly it's not that simple, and actually long form is a lot more difficult than that. But we were young and stupid, and like technically it's kind of right. um,
Mm.
so we just decided to make 12, 15 short films in a row. Each short film would be shot on a weekend, and between one short film and the next short film, there'd be a period of months where we'd, rewrite and save more money and build more props and costumes and, try and get more people involved in the film. And, we just kind of leapfrogged through those months over a period of 3.5 years. And at the end of it, we had a feature film in the can. We went back to Screen Australia and we said, look, we've finished. Will you give us financing for post-production? And they said 100% we will. So we kind of just needed to prove to Screen Australia that we could do it, and then they came to the table very quickly with a grant fund, which was fantastic. And Wyrmwood wouldn't exist properly, without the help of Screen Australia. But that's just how we did it. We just decided to go out and do it. And I think if you make your first film on your own dime, like in your own way, it sets you up with a strength to know that you can always do that, and how you work as a filmmaker. And if you're successful, what you'll find is you will always go back to that way that you did it. Christopher Nolan's he's talked to the media candidly about the fact that whether he's making a $250 million film or whether it's a $25 million film, he still makes his films in the same way that he made his first black and white 16mm feature. He made a film called The Following, and he's going, I just make everything like I made that, and I approach these giant studio films with an independent mind. And like that, I think, is one of the keys to success is, you have to have your own way of doing things. And the only time I've faltered as a filmmaker is when I've had producers who've come in too strong and just taken over, and they're too tough and too tricky for me, and they've just diluted my vision so much that you just end up with something that nobody's happy with. And one of the great things about Blake Northfield, the Beast of War producer, is he just backs my vision. And so he makes sure that the crew's good and that the financing is there and, we can do it. And he helps. His notes are always, small but good, but he doesn't feel like he has to impose his vision as a producer on my vision as a writer-director. And so I find I do my best work with him. But yeah, I think the trick is you just do it. If you want to be a filmmaker, you have to make films. Like you can't wait for somebody to tell you you're a filmmaker. I wrote a letter to Peter Weir when I was 18 years old, maybe 19. Just going, oh, Mr. Weir, you're my favourite Australian director. Can I please come on one of your sets to learn? And he wrote me back. He wrote a letter and he said, when I was your age, I wrote a letter very similar to yours to a big Australian producer. And the producer basically wrote back to me and just said, look, if you want to be a filmmaker, just go make films. And then 20 years later, he was on the set of The Last Wave with Richard Chamberlain. And an extra, an old guy, came and tapped him on the shoulder and he said, Mr. Weir, I'm that producer that you wrote to. Do you remember writing that letter to me? And he goes, yeah, I do remember writing that letter. And he said, well, it worked, didn't it? And he goes, yes, it did. So, Peter Weir says, young man, like I tell you the same thing that he told me. It's like, if you want to be a filmmaker, don't ask me. Go be a filmmaker. Go make films. And so the trick is to jump into it with action, and not to talk about it, not to worry about it, not to plan for it. Just do it, and you'll know pretty quick whether you're a filmmaker or not.
And here we are, 11 years after Wyrmwood. We are here with Beast of War, October 9, Australian cinemas, October 10, US theatres in limited capacity. People, watch this in cinemas, watch it in theatres, because this is the type of film I guarantee you, take your buddies with you, watch it together. You're going to have a blast with this movie. Like I said, it brings the scary back in a shark movie, and I absolutely loved it. And I loved talking to you as well. Kiah Roache-Turner, I thank you so very much for your time today. Best of luck with the film's release. And also, I hope we can talk again in the future, man. It's been a pleasure.
I always like talking with you, Matthew. And yeah, you asked the hard questions, man. Those speed rounds, I was sweating, man. I'm like, every single question, I was like, oh, man, this could go either way. That was,
I got to put you on your toes,
hard.
man. I got to do it.
Yeah, you definitely did. Great questions, man.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.